Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters, friends and family all over the world. I am so excited to be here before you. I am just bubbling over with the word of Yahuwah today. I am so thankful that I have this opportunity because I need to put this word inside of your heart, inside of your mind. Let us begin in Daniel chapter 2. And I'm not going to explain all of this, but we know that Nebuchadnezzar, the sovereign of Babel, had an alarming dream one night in which he was so adamant to find the interpretation of this ground-shaking revelation that he would have every single wise man, soothsayer, psychic, medium, all these people put to death overnight in all the land of Babylon. And of course, most of us already know the information here, and that was that a young Daniel, one of the Yahudim, the Jews that had been brought into Babel, who was amongst the wise men of Nebuchadnezzar's court, said that he could indeed relate this dream that Nebuchadnezzar would not tell the people. He had asked them that they would have to not only give an interpretation, but also be able to relate the exact dream, in which the soothsayers and the wise men of Babylon said, no man can do this, only the mighty ones who reside in heaven. Of course, there is only Yahuwah. He is the supreme El. He rules over every single thing that has ever been considered to be a mighty power. Every messenger and every amazing being that resides in the heavenly realm does obeisance before the Elohim of Yisrael, and his name is Yahuwah forever. So in that concept and that idea, I want to go over here and read this over in the book of Daniel chapter 2. Towards the end of Daniel's relating of this dream, he says this. He says, you were looking on, in verse 34 of chapter 2, you were looking on until a stone was cut out without hands, and it smote the image. There was a great image that Nebuchadnezzar saw, and this image represented the 4 kingdoms that would arise, starting with Nebuchadnezzar himself, the head of gold of the image, that was then would be followed by an inferior nation that actually conquered it, which was Media Persia, which was followed by another inferior nation that would conquer that nation, which was Greece, which was also followed by Rome. And at the end of Rome, it would be brittle, mixed with the nations. And we see that that's what's happening today. And during this time period, it says, you were looking on until a stone was cut out without hands, and it smote the image on its feet of iron and clay, and broke them into pieces. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floor, and the wind took them away, so that no trace of them was found. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled all the earth. This is the dream, and its interpretation we declare before the sovereign. You, O sovereign, are a sovereign of sovereigns, for the Eloah of the heavens has given you a reign, power, and strength, and preciousness. And wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field, and the birds of the heavens, he has given them into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are the head of gold. And after you arises another reign that is lower than yours, and another third reign of bronze that rules over all the earth. And the fourth reign is as strong as iron, because iron crushes and shatters all. So like iron that breaks in pieces, it crushes and breaks all these. Yet as you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the reign is to be divided, but some of the strength of the iron is to be in it, because you saw the iron mixed with the clay. And as for the toes of the feet, they were partly of iron and partly of clay. So the reign is partly strong and partly brittle. And as you saw iron mixed with muddy clay, they are mixing themselves with the seed of men, but they are not clinging to each other, even as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days of these sovereigns, the Eloah of the heavens shall set up a reign, which shall never be destroyed, nor the reign pass on to other people. It crushes and puts to an end all of these reigns, and it stands forever. Because you saw the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and it crushed the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great Eloah, who is Yahuwah, has made known to the sovereign what shall be after this. And the dream is true, and its interpretation is trustworthy. And the king of Babel did obeisance before Daniel because he had the Ruach of Yahuwah. And when you have the Ruach of Yahuwah, kings bow down before you because you will have the revelation. You will have the understanding. You will be able to see what others don't see. You will be given eyes to see and ears to hear what others do not see and hear or perceive. And it will be your wisdom. It will be your understanding. And this is the message I want to relate to you, my friends, that the kingdom of the world is now very brittle, as partly iron, as partly clay. I could explain all this, but let me keep it very simple. We see the great weakness that is being demonstrated in this whole globalism because what? The nations don't quite mesh with each other. It doesn't really work out too well. It makes them weak. So at this time, we anticipate the rock to be cut out without hands, to destroy the image of Nebuchadnezzar. And what does that mean to you, my brothers, my sisters, friends and family, strangers who are listening to my voice? What does it mean? Let us read. Going over to Daniel chapter 7, and I will give you the understanding. It reads in the book of Daniel chapter 7. Listen to what it says. In verse 9, I was looking until thrones were set up. Now this is after the destruction of the fourth kingdom, the final kingdom. Listen to what it says. I was looking until thrones were set up, and the Ancient of Days, who is Yahuwah, was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was as clean wool. His throne was flames of fire, its wheels burning fire. A stream of fire was flowing and coming forth from his presence, and 1,000,000 served him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judge was seated, and the books were opened. And I was looking then because of the sound of the great words which the horn was speaking, the horn that rises up from the fourth kingdom. I was looking until the beast was killed and its body destroyed and given to the burning fire. In this particular vision, the fourth kingdom is likened to a beast. All four kingdoms likened to beasts. And the rest of the beasts had their rule taken away. But a length of life was given to them for a season of time. And I was looking in the night visions and saw one like the son of Enosh. In Hebrew, that would be Ben Adam. In Aramaic here is Bar Enosh. Coming with the clouds of the heavens. And he came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And to him was given rulership and preciousness and a reign that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His rule is an everlasting rule which shall not pass away, and his reign that which shall not be destroyed. This is the power that we must consider when we think about what is about to take place. For we know that Yahushua, the Messiah, is the rock that was cut out without hands. We know that Yahushua, the Messiah, is the expectation of Yisrael, the Ben Dawid, the son of David, who is prophesied by all the great prophets. For it was said to David himself, a son shall come forth from your own loins, meaning one of his own descendants. And that Yahuwah said expressly, he shall be called my son, the son of Yahuwah. We read about this Messiah over and over throughout the book of Yeshayahu. For instance, famous passages that a sprout will come forth, a Natsar will come forth. That word gives us the word for branch. The word Nazarene or Natsari comes from this very word. So it is prophesied and foretold by the ancient prophets that the Messiah would come and be given the preciousness. He would be given the reign and he would crush all nations. And guess what that means? That means when the true Mashiach comes, you will not see anybody playing politics any longer. There won't be shaking hands. There won't be peace treaties. You won't see sacred trees anymore. You won't see these obelisks anymore. All the images will be crushed. All the idols destroyed. Every idol, every image. All of these Eastern deities and their idols will be destroyed and vanquished. Their gold won't even be worth a dime in that day. Forgotten forever. These fake images of the Messiah and these fake names, forgotten forever. The Catholic Church, forgotten forever. All the idols will go away. And that's how you will know when the true Mashiach arrives. Because it won't be just another day in Babylon. Babylon will fall. Babylon will be destroyed. And we see the cracks in the base already now. We can see the weakness if we truly zoom in. If we truly focus our attention, we'll see where this whole system is already falling apart at the seams. It was never intended to be permanent in the first place. Even those who are creating this New World Order machine understand that the point of all this is for the extinction of humanity, where they want to put these brain chips in your mind through these neurobots and all these things. Yeah, this is true. I know it sounds like wacky conspiracy theories. Go read a book sometime. This stuff is common knowledge now. And use 6G to make you a slave, an antenna, ultimately a battery for the New World Order because of all the electricity that goes throughout your body and the fact that you have all these crystalline parts throughout your body that make you basically a wireless antenna designed to commune with the Almighty Himself. But they want to replace all that, remove the Almighty from your consciousness and give you no consciousness. To give you no concept of right and wrong, but to be simply a robot, a machine. I'm here to liberate you with the word of Yahuwah, who has a plan for you already. Oh, brothers and sisters, Pharaoh wanted to destroy us with his hard labors, and he wanted to break our spirits so many years ago, and we all know the great story of our Exodus. But what has been planned and plotted against us right now is worse than what Pharaoh ever even could have imagined or conceived of. They are building the machine right in front of you. They're building all this stuff right now where they can literally read your brain waves using the 6G. This is not a conspiracy theory. I'm getting it from the horse's mouth, straight from the documents, straight from the citations that the people don't read. Just like I read all the patents for these experimental gene therapies that they gave out in the last few years. But a lot of you didn't. Why? You should investigate. Yahuwah gave you a mind. He gave you a heart to know truth and to seek truth. Protect this body of yours because it is the temple of Yahuwah. And be very careful how you submit and what you submit to. And don't bow down to any images I see all over the country. We've got new images and new idols being imported from every foreign nation under the heavens. It's avodah zarah. It's abomination. It's blasphemy. The Almighty One cannot be replicated with artistic works or materialism. When you bow in front of a shiny thing, you bow in front of its maker. And speaking of that, I have noticed that a lot of people have gone out into the world now carrying the message of Yahuwah and Yahushua. I would just like to set the record straight briefly that if you were to look up the name of Yahuwah many, many years ago, say back in 2008, 2009, maybe even 2007, there was some stuff on Google that I had uploaded, you couldn't find hardly anyone proclaiming this name. But now they're everywhere and they're almost a dime a dozen, and they have all kinds of false teachings that they didn't derive from here. They concocted them in their own mind. They were of us, but they went out from among us. Why? Because we live in the time of the wheat and the tares, brothers and sisters. I've explained this in a video a long time ago. Go watch that video. The wheat and the tares, it'll make a lot of sense to you. The wheat and the tares are almost identical until the time of the harvest. And most of you probably already know this, that at the time of the harvest, the wheat bows down under the weight of the golden grain that it has produced the fruit, and it bows down, symbolic of bowing down before Yahuwah, which is the word for worship. One of the most general words for worship is shachah. The root is shachah in the Hebrew. And this word literally means to prostrate or bow oneself. So when they tell you that these people who bow down to the little images of an Asian man that they call the enlightened one, that's what the word Buddha means. That's a blasphemous word. We don't even use the names of these pagan things. And they'll tell you, oh, but we don't really worship that thing. They're lying to you. Just like they lie to all Westerners with things like yoga. They tell you, oh, that's not involved in pagan worship. Oh, yes, it is. They're bowing down and worshiping the sun. Go look at the Sanskrit words for crying out loud. Westerners are so foolish. They bow down to everything shiny. And speaking of things that are shiny, let's talk about some of these doctrines that some of these false teachers are spouting out. New shiny teachings that sprung up lately, but things that are not a part of the ancient path or the ancient way or the ancient walk. And so while I've been seeking Yahuwah, spending time seeking Yahuwah in prayer, going up the metaphorical mountain to receive revelation from Yahuwah, many of the people within the camp decided, hey, let's make some new shiny thing and let's follow that. And I even had somebody the other day trying to say, well, it's because you're not all over the internet all the time and you're not always on this. I can't do that and seek Yahuwah. It's impossible. If you're following a man who's always on a screen in front of you, just know that man, there's no way he's actually seeking Yahuwah. He's just listening to other people, regurgitating what he's read in PDFs, and he has no time to actually seek Yahuwah. I'm telling you the truth and from experience, because Yahuwah has quickened me. I don't know what's inside of those guys. I can't vouch for them. People ask me sometimes, who can I vouch for? I can't vouch for these guys. Come on. I know brothers and sisters in the flesh. I know them that I can vouch for, who've been strong, who've stood on the rock of ages and have not deterred and have not changed and not wavered, no matter the pressures of this life. They built their house on a rock. And when the winds came and the floods came, guess what? It's still standing. But some of you have built your house on the sand and you don't even realize that your house has been destroyed and you're lacking and you're wanting and you pretend like you have it, but you don't have it. You're a terror and you don't even know it. It's so sad. And I pray for you, and I'm not trying to isolate individuals, so don't think I'm talking to one specific person. My hope and prayer is that all will teshuvah. This is not a message to condemn, but I will tell you that I know that they're among us. And I know who they are, and you know who they are, because you've heard their venom and you've seen their venom and you've tasted their rotten fruit and you realize that they're lying. And a lot of them even slandering the great name of Yahushua the Messiah without a single fear, without flinching and without thinking twice. Saying things about the Hebrew language they have no concept of, saying things such as Yahushua means something that I can't even relate, but something negative, when it actually is a play on the song of the sea. The literal wording of Moses before they crossed the sea is stand still so that you know the Yeshua of Yahuwah. It's literally Yeshua Yahuwah, salvation of Yahuwah. They crossed the sea, he busts into song. This is the song of Moses, and he sings Azi Wazimrat Yahweh Yehi Li Le Yeshua, which means my strength and song is Yah, and he has become my salvation. My, and that the word is spelled Yod, Shin, Wa, Ayin, He. It is the word that gives us the full name of Yahushua. Despite what any of these guys say, who's got time for it? If you were to look it up years ago, you would see that everybody thought that this was the name until all of a sudden certain ones came out from amongst us and then to have some juicy new lie. Because when you shine something shiny in front of people that's new, they inevitably fall down in front of it. That is the psychology of man. That's what we see in the Torah. That's what's revealed. You create a golden calf for them, and they will follow it. They will bow down to it. That is unfortunately what we see around us seems to be, I guess, somehow the nature of everybody except for me and you and those like you and those like us, right? Those who are in this way. Something inside of us, we just can't bow down in front of something shiny or new. We seek the ancient path, the true path, the light. We are the children of the light. That is why we walk in the light and we delight ourselves in the light. And speaking of the light, let's speak of the light for a moment. Matthew chapter 17, Matthew chapter 17. Listen to what it says about our Mashiach in verse 1. And after 6 days, Yahushua took Kepha and Yaakov and Yehochanan, his brother, and brought them up on a high mountain by themselves. And he was transformed before them, and his face shone like the sun. His face shone like the sun. You ever been driving and you're around the corner and the sun's just in the right spot in the sky where it just blinds you? You almost have to stop. You can't even go any further. You're like, how can I even drive? How can I see? What can I do? My friends, have you not considered that the Mashiach that we serve is lit up by the very presence and manifestation of the countenance of his Father Yahuwah, and that the face of Yahuwah shines brighter than 10,000 times 10,000 suns? Consider these words. Consider what I'm telling you right now. His face shone like the sun, and his garments were as white as the light. Our Mashiach is the light. Any man claiming that there was darkness in him or darkness in Yahuwah at all has missed the verse entirely, which says that in him there is no darkness and there is no shadow of turning. We must understand these words. And see, Moshe and Eliyahu appeared to them, talking with him. So Moshe and Eliyahu appeared to give validation to the Messiah, just as we would expect of the true Messiah. Because if the true Messiah is Yahushua, it should be that Eliyahu and Moses could validate such a thing. But we see with modern Christianity, Moshe and Eliyahu, Moses and Elijah the prophet, there's no way. Again, his name is Eliyahu, not Elijah. But there's no way they could validate this nonsense that we see in Christianity today. You know, the Greco-Romanized Jesus, with all the images, with all the pagan worship, with all of these abominations that are associated, with the pagan holidays, with the idols that they bow down for before. So we know that this is a misrepresentation. There's no way that Eliyahu could fall for that. Eliyahu is the one who went against the prophets of Baal. And these people serve one that they call Baal or Lord. And one of the names of Baal is God, phonetically, not making that up. That's phonetically in the Hebrew language. In Isaiah 65:11, you can find Baal God throughout the book of Yahushua ben Nun or Joshua also. So this is common knowledge to those of us who know the Hebrew language and been studying the Hebrew language. So what I'm trying to tell you is when the true Messiah comes, his face will shine like the sun. He is the light. No man will be able to stand before him. Because when he comes in the authority of Yahuwah. Because the greatest prophets, Moshe and Eliyahu, validated him before his students. And this is important to understand. I'm going somewhere with all this, so just bear with me. Yahuwah is leading me today. I feel this. I had no plan for this message. Suddenly, for the last few days, I've just known that Yahuwah, his words are just flowing through me. And so when I'm talking to different ones, I just feel his ruach just so quickened. So I knew that I could just come here and begin to speak, and that Yahuwah would unfold the revelation because it was already unfolding. It's already been revealed. I have been losing hours and hours and hours of sleep seeking the face of Yahuwah, reading his scriptures, studying the Hebrew language, intensely studying, intensely praying, intensely following his voice. And I'm here to tell you, there's a change in the wind. You know, when you're on a boat and there's a sail, the change in the wind is critical. You don't want to fight the wind. The wind blows wherever it will, Yahushua said. And those who hear it do not know wherever it is going. And what did he say? So are you who are full of Ruach HaKodesh. You are like the wind. Brothers and sisters, hear my voice. There's a change in the wind. There's a change in the wind. You better set your sail. Because we're sailing to Zion, we're sailing to the mountain of Yahuwah. We have our feet in the direction. Our heart is where our treasure is. We have already placed our heart, our mind, and our feet on the path. We have already set our eyes on Yahuwah's mountain. And we know where we are going, and we are being led. And my prayer for you, brothers and sisters, is that you truly receive Ruach HaKodesh, so that no man has to send you a new flavor of the month video. Yeah, I've had videos. And you know what? If I have less views just because people are unplugging, turning off the screen and reading the scriptures and seeking his face and tearing out their hearts before him and praying and fasting, then so be it. Hallelujah. That is what I want, that all of Yahuwah's people would be full of Ruach HaKodesh. Just like Moshe said, if all of the children of Israel could only be prophets, how great would that be? How marvelous would that be? Then they could hear directly from Yahuwah and know they are being led and not have to listen to the deceivers that have gone out, these wolves that have gone out among us. There's a change in the wind, and it has nothing to do with politics. So don't think that this video is because somebody just got inaugurated, because on that very day, I had lost track of the days, because for days I had been seeking Yahuwah and seeking his face and putting his name first. And everybody around me knows that on that day, I was even unaware of the day that it was. So consumed with his fire that I could care less about who takes office, because my Elohim sits on the throne. Some of you are happy because a man took office. I've been rejoicing because my Elohim has always been on the throne since before creation of times eternal, in time, before there was a time. So I rejoice today, every day, because I have this assurance inside of me. I have a confidence inside of me. No man can take it from me, because it's from Yahuwah. Recently, I can't tell you everything, but Yahuwah has performed a wonderful miracle for me. A wonderful physical miracle that no man could ever do. And I can't go through the details right now, because it's just, it's an elaborate situation. But let me just tell you, it is kindled. If you thought I had a fire kindled inside of my heart and soul and mind, that fire is blazing stronger than it has ever been blazing before. It is as if a wind has blown right on it, and it is just consuming the Ruach of Yahuwah. I feel Yahuwah's Ruach. I know. I have an inner knowing. I know that I'm being led by Yahuwah. And I want you, my brother, my sister, to have that inner knowing that transcends the deception, that transcends the word of man, that transcends the videos and the PDFs and all the noise and all the stuff. That's why you need to stand still and see the salvation of Yahuwah, just like Moshe said. The Yashuat Yahuwah, who is Yahushua. It's only 2 chapters later, after the song of Moses, where he sung Azir Wazimrat Yahweh Yahi Li Le Yeshua, which rhymes very well with the sacred name of Yahuwah, by the way. That's all going to be in my book that I've been working on for 20 years, compiling all the knowledge that I have on the name for 20 years together in this book. But the point is, 2 chapters after this, Joshua, or who was called Hoshea at the time, is now called Yahushua for the very first time. This is where he's renamed. So we know where it comes from. It's not a mystery. It's poetry. And anybody who's really reading Hebrew, like some of these guys who pretend they have their own translations, but they got the name of Messiah totally wrong, they should know this very well, that it's poetry, that it's all poetry, that the entire Tanakh is an elaborate symphony of music and passionate poetry, word plays, word puns, word associations that can only be done in the Hebrew. It cannot be translated correctly into any other language, including Aramaic or Arabic or any other Semitic language. It just doesn't work. I promise you, I promise you, I've studied this. I've studied the Hebrew language with professionals for about 20 years. I have consulted with several professors in the land of Israel who have agreed with me on the pronunciation of Yahuwah and Yahushua, despite what many of you may think. Now, I may not be able to come right out and mention some of these guys because they are, this isn't a topic they talk about with the world. This is a topic they talk about with people who are really sincere and who really have a knowledge, and they have dropped down the walls to talk to me on these subjects, and it's very important, very beautiful. So everything that you're going to see in this new book is all well researched, not because it needed to be, because we already knew the name, but I needed to present this because the academic world pretends as if there's no evidence. And also a lot of our people, like I said, they've gone out from among us, they can't explain it properly. So they're fumbling all over their own feet constantly. And it's just sad to watch. So I, over the last 20 years, saw this happening. So I've compiled this evidence. This video is not about that book, but I have to bring it up because it is pivotal and it's about to be released. And I may need you to consider praying about being involved some kind of way, because we're going to probably need reviews to get the book on, higher in the search engine. We're going to need people to potentially help financially. I haven't really asked, and if you can't, that's fine. Pray for us. But if you can, consider that I have a great vision that Yahuwah has revealed to me, that this must go far and wide. So we have to put a lot of resources into this. It can't be like, I don't really put resources into advertising on YouTube and things like that. But that's going to have to kind of change a little bit so that we can get this information far and wide, because we are in the season that I just described. And the name of Yahuwah must be known. And it can't just be known. It also has to be explained with great, exquisite detail like it deserves. So further, I don't want to continue on that right now. Move on. I want to move on. So this is what I want you to consider. In the book of 1 John chapter 2, verse 15, do not love the world nor that which is in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him, because all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, it's not of Yahuwah, but is of the world. And the world is passing away, and the lust of it, and the one doing the desire of Elohim, of Yahuwah, remains forever. Little children, is the last hour. And as you have heard that the anti-Mashiach is coming, even now there are many anti-Messiahs that have come. This is how we know that it is the last hour. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would have stayed with us, but in order that it might be manifest that none of them were of us. And you have an anointing from the set-apart one, and you know all. Listen here, listen here, listen here. I just landed on this page, by the way. My eyes, I just opened up. My eyes knew what I had seen as soon as I saw it. And I knew I had to relate these words to you right now. See, that's something you also need to do. You need to know this book so well, but you also need to be able to be so full of Ruach HaKodesh that you could pick this book up. And it could be even in any translation. It could be a really bad one, but you should be able to pick it up and be able to just open right up. And the Ruach HaKodesh lead you right through the book. Lead you, not by just some man, but through his Ruach HaKodesh, just like just happened here. This was by Yahuwah's design. How do I know? Listen to everything I just said. I just said these things earlier, didn't I? So that's how you know, friend, brother, sister, stranger. That's how you know. That's what I'm saying. This is something you need to practice in your life. Seeking Yahuwah, praying, seeking Yahuwah. Open up the book. See what it just lands on. Just see what it just lands on. Sometimes maybe it's not going to be exactly what you thought. Sometimes maybe slightly inapplicable. Do it again. It's guaranteed. You're going to find what you're looking for. Listen to what it says here. This is how you know you're being led. Listen to what it says further. I did not write to you because you do not know the truth, but because you know it. That's why I'm making this message. Not because you don't know the truth, but because you know it, O children of Yisrael. I'm here to tell you, O mighty man of valor, that you are the man of Yahuwah. Rise up and do his will. Before Gideon was a great military leader, the Malach of Yahuwah appeared and said, Shalom. Yahuwah's with you, mighty man of valor, right? Before he was ever that man. So Yahuwah knows you, who you're going to be, he made you to be. He knows what he created. You are his beautiful creation, and he loves you, and he is trying to get through to you that the time for you to come into your own is now. The time for you to study this word and sharpen your sword is now. Remember, we are in the time of the wise and the foolish virgins. What is the difference? The lamp is what? David told us so expressly. Your word is a light to my feet and a lamp to my path. That's in the Tehillim in the Psalms. Very obvious. Almost everybody knows it. Can almost probably everybody quote it. So the lamp is the scriptures. What is the wick? It says they were trimming the wick. When you go and look up the Hebrew Matthew and I believe even in the Aramaic, it uses a word similar to the word tikkun, which is teken, which means to repair and restore the wick. That's why they trim it, to cut off those little fringy pieces so that when they light it anew, it's a good light. It's a good solid light. So they're restoring their understanding of the scriptures, making sure, cutting off whatever may not be important. They're trimming it and getting it precise. They're restoring it. That's what that word means, tikkun. And then what was the difference between those wise and foolish ones? Well, the wisdom is the Torah. The scripture says, and this Torah will be your wisdom. What's the foolishness? Not listening to Yahuwah's Torah. That's obvious. It's deeper than this, much deeper. How do you separate the two? It's the oil, the shemen. And what is the shemen? It is the name of Yahuwah, but so many people know his name now. And consider this. In the book of Yirmiyahu is slapped and mocked and ridiculed by people who say that they're doing it by the inspiration of Yahuwah. False prophets who used his name, who spoke his name, and slapped Yirmiyahu and beat him and broke him down, and priests that did the same thing, and all these people who accused him, and they all knew his name. I've experienced the same thing. Matter of fact, knowing his name alone is not enough. You must have Ruach HaKodesh. Because the scripture says that Yahuwah is near to all who call upon him, and then it clarifies in the Tehillim, all who call upon him in truth. Yahushua said that the Father is Ruach. He is the Spirit. Those who worship him must worship him in Ruach Emet, Ruach and truth, Spirit and truth. So you have to have the truth, because you could have the name but just be one of those false prophets like in Yirmiyahu's time. And we read about them in Yirmiyahu 23, and Yahuwah said, woe to those false prophets who each man of them steal my words from his neighbor. There's a lot of those tuning in, watching my videos, learning how certain Hebrew words sound, copying it, mimicking it. They've been doing that. They've been doing that since about 2007 or 8 or 9. And for a long time, I was totally fine with that, until I realized that the message was being totally distorted, totally warped and changed. People's priorities are so wrong. I run into a guy the other day. He's like, I'm a Torah guy. Oh, yeah? We start talking. Only 2 seconds in, he's asking me what shape is the earth. Let me tell you something. You tell me your Torah, you observe the Torah? This is my question for you. Can you say the Shema? Do you know the Shema? What is the greatest command? Do you know? Can you name the 10 commandments? Because a lot of these guys say they keep the Torah. If you just ask them, just point blank, just say, okay, name the 10 commandments. They can't even do it, but they're talking about all this other stupid stuff. We should be so emotionally involved with Yahuwah that every day the idea of him blows us away, and that we're in total awe of him at all times, and he alone is sufficient to occupy our mind and our mental activity. He alone is worthy. Why do you occupy yourself with things that do not profit and do not add to the scriptures and do not help the message? Why don't you seek the face of the Eternal One who lives? He actually lives. He breathes. He speaks. He speaks. I know he speaks. Yahuwah is unlike anyone. And he lives. Yahuwah Chai. Yahuwah lives. Yahuwah Chaya. Yahuwah is alive. So the one we serve is alive. And the reason for this message is very clear. For me, at least, because it all ties in. Because I want to read a little bit further here. Listen to this. No one denying the Son has the Father. No, wait for it. I want to go up further. Verse 22. Who is the liar except the one denying that Yahushua is the Messiah? This is anti-Messiah, the one denying the Father and the Son. No one denying the Son has the Father. The one confessing the Son has the Father as well. As for you, let that stay in you which you heard from the beginning. If what you heard from the beginning stays in you, you shall stay in the Son and in the Father. And this is the promise that he has promised us, everlasting life. I have written this to you concerning those who lead you astray. But the anointing which you have received from him stays in you, and you have no need that anyone should teach you. But as the same anointing does teach you concerning all that is true, and is no falsehood, and even as it has taught you to stay in him. And now, little children, stay in him, so that when he appears, we might have boldness and not be ashamed before him at his coming. If you know that he is righteous, you know that everyone doing righteousness has been born of him. And yet our people are not focused on being Sadiqs. They're not focused on being Sadiqim, on being righteous ones. They're focused on every shiny thing that comes along and to deceive them, to take them off the path. And someone even accused me the other day. They said, you know, you need to join the masses who go along with this certain doctrine, because you not going along with it is causing a division. In other words, they basically said to me in so many words that I am troubling Yisrael. And that reminded me of the time, of course, when Ahab encountered Eliyahu. And Ahab, the great adulterer, the king of Israel, says to Eliyahu, the mighty prophet of Yahuwah from a distance, "Is that you, O you who troubles Yisrael?" And the word of Yahuwah rose inside of my soul like fire, and I couldn't hold it back. And immediately I knew, and I thought, and I spoke. And it was so clear to me in that moment. It is not me who is causing the trouble for Yisrael, but you and your house and your shepherds and your priests and your prophets. I will stand against them all. But I will stand with the soldiers of Yahuwah. And I will call you brothers and sisters, and I already do. But I just let you know this is my mission. How do I know my mission? Yahuwah showed me very clearly. I believe in visions and dreams. I believe in insight from Ruach HaKodesh. I don't believe in some spurious, stuff. I believe in the truth. I know the truth. The truth has set me free. I know the truth. The truth has set me free. I know what Yahuwah has done for me. I've seen his mighty hand. Those who have been watching for me to fall, and there are many who claim to be believers, watching for me, watching for my failure constantly. They're not really watching for that. You know what they're watching for? They can't believe that Yahuwah is still with me, and that they themselves don't have it, and that they are actually being consumed with various illnesses and trials and tribulations which are coming under them because they mocked me when I went through various trials and tribulations. And they're simply reaping what they have sown. So they're watching me under the magnifying glass, hoping for me to fail, meanwhile knowing that the only reason they're doing this is because they know that Yahuwah is with me. And he's been so good to me. My Father has been so good to me. And I love him so much. And I pray that you can too have the great assurance and the confidence that I feel. Because like I said, the change is in the wind, brothers and sisters. It's time to go home. Yahuwah has revealed to me and shown me and given me a peace, a shalom that transcends all shalom. And though I see all the stuff, you could ask me. You could say, but don't you know that this is happening? And don't you know that's happening? And yeah, Yahuwah showed me all these things so many years ago. And back then, yeah, it was a lot. And it kind of was a lot to think about. Like, they could do this to you. They could do that to you. Oh my goodness, they could persecute you. Yeah, I've already thought about everything. I still have shalom and total confidence. And it's only because of Yahuwah. And if I had to do a small task, like some basic task tomorrow that I'm not used to, sure, I'll ask some people. Like, I don't know. I'll pray to Yahuwah first. But if I need truth from Yahuwah concerning the truth of his scriptures, I go straight to him, and I no longer ask for man. I don't watch any of the videos. I don't watch this stuff you guys send me. I'm sorry. I'll talk to you about it. I'll be happy to, because I know all these theories, all the doctrines. I study them like the back of my hand. Every new one that comes up, I have a file on it. Believe me, I've been collecting files on everything for years and years and years. And people are like, why didn't you respond about it a long time ago? Why did I have to? I was up on the mountain seeking Yahuwah. It's not my faith. It's not my fault that you fell down in front of a shiny thing. I'm not Moses, but that is what happened. I was seeking Yahuwah. It's not my fault that I came back and I found you doing what you were doing. Look, I'm not trying to be judgmental. My call is to you to repent. Turn to Yahuwah. Seek the truth. Seek him with your heart, soul, and mind. Now, this is the purpose of this video. This is the actual purpose. This is the real nitty-gritty of it all. Revelation, chapter 1, verse 12. And I turned to see the voice which spoke with me. And having turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands, 7 menorot. And in the midst of the 7 menorot, one like the Ben Adam, which we read about in Daniel chapter 7. verse 13 and onward, dressed in a robe down to the feet and girded about the chest with a golden band. And his head and hair were white as white wool. Remember, his face shines like the sun. He is like the light. In him there is no darkness, nor is there a shadow of turning. He is the same today, yesterday, and forever. And Yahushua is the Malach, the messenger of Yahuwah, that we read about throughout the scriptures. We read that was a messenger that led the children of Israel through the wilderness. Yahuwah said, behold, I send my messenger, my Malach before you, and he will lead you in the way, and he will help you to conquer all these lands and do all these things. And he says, my name is in him. This is the messenger of Yahuwah that appeared to the great prophets when it says the word came to me saying, and a messenger was there, such as Moses speaking to Yahuwah at the burning bush. If you read it carefully, there was a Malach there speaking to Moshe, who is this messenger of Yahuwah, who's called Malach Yahuwah. This is Yahushua, the Bar Yahuwah, the word of Yahuwah. Let's read about him, because I want people to understand. They need to understand and have a healthy fear before him, because they've said a lot of slanderous things. There's some people who said some evil things about his name, and they pretend to know Hebrew. But they don't know one iota of Hebrew or Hebrew grammar. And down deep in their soul, they even know this. But they have a Strong's Concordance, and they have a strong imagination. Well, Strong's Concordance is the elementary baby tool. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to offend you or hurt your feelings. But, we do grow past the basic, dictionary that's just a basic root dictionary, a concordance of root words. It is not complete by any means, and it does not reflect the totality of Hebrew grammar. But, okay, so you have a Strong's Concordance, that's great, and you got a strong imagination, that's great, but I'm going to tell you what's not great. Presumptuously speaking about the one that I'm about to describe is not very wise. Now listen to what I have to say. He's in the midst of the 7 menorot. He's the Kohen of Yahuwah. Now listen to what it says. He's the Malach of Yahuwah, I've already described. He is the Ben Adam who comes and who was given the scroll and given the reign and given the dignity and the power and all this thing from Yahuwah. And it says his head and hair were white as white wool, as snow. This sounds like the Ancient of Days is described. He looks like his father, it seems. Interesting. Maybe that's why there's this whole father-son relationship. Maybe that explains some things, doesn't it? He comes in the esteem of his father, just like any king sends his son in the esteem and name. But this is more than that, my friends. Listen. His eyes as a flame of fire, and his feet like burnished brass, as if refined in a furnace, and his voice is the sound of many waters. And in his right hand he had 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword. The word of Yahuwah, that's what that sharp 2-edged sword was. Listen to what it says. And his face was as the sun shining in its strength. And when I saw him, this is Yahuchanan, his beloved disciple that leaned on his bosom at the Passover. And listen what it says. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead. And he placed his right hand on me, saying, do not be afraid. I am the first and the last and the living one. And I became dead. And see, I am living forever and ever. Amen. And I possess the keys of Sheol and death. Yahushua possesses the keys of Sheol and death. When Yahushua comes, those dead bodies of the believers, the Kodashim, they will waken at his shout. They will hear the sound of the Ben Adam. They will open their eyes and be totally restored beyond what they ever were to immortal flesh like you don't understand because you're physical. They were born of the Ruach HaKodesh, and they will be transformed in the likeness of the Messiah himself, just as his face shines like the sun, just like his father's. So too ours will. And this is why the Aaronic Barakah talks about placing the name of Yahuwah upon the children of Israel, Numbers chapter 6. That Yahuwah would place his name upon them and his countenance be lifted upon them. Moses was in the presence of Yahuwah, and the presence of Yahuwah shone so brightly onto him that he had to cover his face with a veil. I want to strike some fear into your heart today. Many of you have heard the passage in the scriptures where Yahushua is going to say to the ones on his right hand, I was hungry and I was in need, and I had all these things, and you were there to help me. And they say, when, Master? And that you did it to the least of my brothers, you did it to me. But to those ones on the left, he says, I was hungry and you didn't feed me. I was in prison, you didn't visit me. When, Master? That's what they'll say. And that you didn't do it for the least of my servants, you didn't do it for me. Depart from me, I never knew you. They'll say, Lord, 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 we did all these things in your name. But think about it, they don't know his name. They don't know who he is. They've spoken apostasy against him. People are so focused on so many things, the calendar and all this. It's important stuff. Yeah, it's super important. Not trying to diminish it. But so is feeding the widows and being righteous and being a tov person, doing what is considered good. Doing what the Torah says, where you extend yourself to help people, to love people. We extend yourself to share the truth with them. We extend yourself to be a light in this world. You are the light. Now, we talked about the wise and foolish virgins earlier. You probably thought that I deviated from it. Maybe I missed finishing up. No, I didn't. Everything's happening in the right order. I don't even have notes. This is all just flowing from the Ruach HaKodesh. Let me tell you, there's more than a difference between knowing the name. The name is also synonymous with Ruach HaKodesh. Yahuwah, one of his titles is HaKodesh. He's called HaKadosh or HaKodesh Yisrael many times, which is translated the set apart one. But HaKadosh or HaKodesh is a title of his. Just like Ruach, when it says the Ruach of Yahuwah, it doesn't say of though, it says Ruach Yahuwah came upon this prophet or came upon that prophet. This is to be understood if you look in the Tanakh, because you never see the terminology of Ruach HaKodesh. You only see Ruach Yahuwah. So who is HaKadosh or HaKodesh? It is Yahuwah. Remember the seraphim, they say all the time, Kadosh, 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 Yahuwah Sevaot. Set apart, set apart, set apart are you, Yahuwah Sevaot. We serve one whose eyes are like fire, whose face shines brighter than the sun. This all ties together so beautifully for me because, I was just driving yesterday and I went around a bend and suddenly the sun was so bright I couldn't see a thing, and words came into my heart and my face is even brighter and I wept before him. I hope that you consider these words. I hope that you consider whom you serve. I hope that you will take this into prayer. Seek Yahuwah with your heart, soul, and mind. Pour out your heart before him. Tear your heart. Rend it before him, not your garment. Tear your garment too if you need to, but not for a show. Don't make a spectacle of yourself. Do what you do in private. That's what Yahushua said. Seek Yahuwah in private. Let that be who you really are. Because what you do in secret places is who you are. You need to master controlling your thoughts and the thoughts that come into your mind. If you have not begun to eliminate those sinful thoughts that come into your mind, as soon as they come into your mind, you're not doing the right work. You're supposed to take every thought captive. You're supposed to seek Yahuwah and think as if you want him to be searching this mind and heart and be pleased. There's a big concern now. They say 6G is going to be able to read your mind, use the body as a human antenna, and they're going to read your mind. They say they already can. They say they already can. That's what some people say, at least, using Wi-Fi. And I talked to somebody, and I saw the concern in their eyes. I'm not going to say who. I saw some concern in their eyes. But when I began to tell them, don't worry, you know that Yahuwah already searches your mind and your heart. And I saw the smile, and I understood that they understood that means that we have no need to fear. These people can't create a real, mighty one. They can create a god, a false deity, an idol. And they already have. And I know that they're working towards this AI, godlike intelligence, whatever. Who cares? Do you care? Are you worried? Are you really worried? You should be maybe a little bit concerned, slightly to be aware. I mean, there's a healthy reason why we have these sort of feelings. But come on. If you're worried, you don't truly know who we serve. You should rather fear that Yahuwah has been reading your mind the whole time and that Yahuwah knows the wicked thoughts of your heart. But you should also be relieved because our Elohim can sympathize with us, and he often does. He was so merciful that he forgave the entire nation of Nineveh because of Jonah. Remember? Those people were horrible people, the enemies of Yahuwah. Think about Naaman, who was a commander, the general of the Assyrians. He was a commander. They were actively attacking Israel, during that time, actively attacking. And Naaman had a slave girl who was Israelite, Israeli, Yisrael. And you would think that Yahuwah wouldn't regard this man. But the little girl said to him, or maybe she was a little older. We don't really know her age. We know she was a young woman. And she says to him, but there's a prophet in my homeland who could heal my master. And Naaman, I'm just about to cry thinking about it. Being uncircumcised, being a leader of the Assyrians, he took it to heart. And he came to Samaria and inquired of the great prophet of Yahuwah. The prophet said, go to the Yarden and dip. And he was upset. He's like, I just knew he would come and say a miraculous thing over me in the name of his mighty one, in the name of Yahuwah, and I would be healed. But he told me to go dip in the Yarden, and we've got better rivers back at home. And some of his servants said, yeah, but master, you would have done anything else he said. Just please go dip. And he did. And my Elohim, before Yahushua Messiah came and shed his blood for the nations, he healed Naaman, the leper. And Naaman made an oath that day. He said, I'll take some dirt from this place. When I go back home, I'll serve Yahuwah and him alone. And the great prophet said, go and Yahuwah be with you. That's the mighty one we serve, full of mercy and compassion. Jonah didn't even want to go to Nineveh. He said, I didn't even want to come here. I'm so enraged because I just knew that you were so merciful and so full of compassion that you would forgive these people. That's why I didn't want to go. That's why I ran from you. That's why the fish swallowed me. This is Jonah. Consider the mercy of my mighty one. Consider the one we serve. He loves you. He is concerned with you. When the sparrows fall, he knows. Every hair is numbered. He knows you. He knows your heart and your mind. And he is there to give you strength to be the wind in your sail. Brothers and sisters, set your sails and prepare yourselves. There's a change in the wind. There's a change in the wind, and I feel it. All around, I feel it. I don't sleep a lot anymore. I don't have time. I'm just seeking Yahuwah, seeking the rock of Israel, seeking the true way, because brothers and sisters, when our Messiah comes, there will be no more playing politics. Your favorite politician, gone forever. There will be no more shaking hands, no more bowing down in front of little statues or big statues, no matter what kind of statue, whether it's a Jesus or a Buddha or whatever it might be. It's all going to rot. It's all going to be forgotten. And the children of light will endure forever. And I plan to see you, brothers and sisters. I've got my sights on Zion. I've got my heart toward his mountain. I've got my mind on his word. And the word of Yahuwah has come to me and has healed my mind and healed my body physically. And I'll never be the same. And I hope and pray that this same spectacular event will take place for you. Because the one whose face shines brighter than the sun, he's got his eyes on his people. He sees them where they are. He knows your struggle. He sees the burdens that the Mitzrites are placing on you. He sees the plan of Pharaoh. He's not moved. Yahuwah will crush the machine. He will crush the beast. Let's take this last little bit real quick to just tell you a little bit about my book. I mentioned it earlier because I knew that some people probably wouldn't be able to endure through the whole teaching. I knew some people would probably stop immediately or whatever when it got to a certain part, because that's what a lot of people do. But brothers and sisters, please consider possibly helping what we're trying to do here. I don't have a lot of people helping us. I mean, as far as not financially, I mean, we do have some people that help here and there. Of course, I mean, you know, that's kind of the way these things work. It'd be very difficult to put out videos and, you know, do all these things without it. a lot, just great things. But what I really mean here is I need your actual prayers, and I need you to get involved and take this as if you can play a significant role in the book, and you can help to do something, whether it be financially or whether it be just, like I said, I will need reviews, we'll need people spreading the word. And the point of the book is you already have a lot of this information. I'm gonna make a lot of videos about this stuff, but the point of the book is this book is the exhaustive explanation that will shut the mouths of every single scholar and every single academic on the face of the planet, because I consulted with the heights, I went beyond them, and I consulted with their teachers and their professors, and those guys at the height of Hebrew language and linguistics, they have agreed with me on the sacred name of Yahuwah and Yahushua HaMashiach. So and I didn't have to get any understanding from them. I shared with them all the understanding that I had. One of them even said, I'm blown away. This is one of the top professors. I'm not going to reveal his name just because I don't know. I don't know if he starts getting a bunch of emails and stuff, I don't know, might sour, the ability to have a constant stream of communication or whatever. But he told me literally in confidence, I am blown away by your knowledge of the name. So we need to get this out so that people can't plagiarize it and rip it off. Because a lot of these guys who are listening to me, that's what they're setting back to do. I've already seen some of them doing it. I see them doing it constantly. You know it because they put out translations without knowing basic Hebrew grammar, taking other people's hard work and just slapping certain words in certain places incorrectly. You can see this in a lot of these translations. For instance, if you have a Hallelujah Scriptures, go to Psalm chapter 1. Read the very first line. It says, Baruch is the man. Go look in your resources. Pull up blueletterbible.org or whatever you use, whatever tools you have. Tell me, is that the word? Is it Baruch? No, it's not. It's a totally different word, Ashrei. If we're restoring the Hebrew understanding, why are they doing this? Because what they're doing is they're taking a PDF. It's not just them. I'm not trying to put them on blast. You see this being done with all the translations, like the Yahusha Nazarene version by a certain individual and the Sefer stuff. You see these guys do it. They do a simple search in a PDF and a word replace. And they get a lot of these words wrong, and a lot of translations are severely flawed. And I eventually plan on exposing a lot of that, Yahuwah willing. So keep us in prayer. There's a lot of work. I'm doing a lot of other stuff. I've written several other books as well, but I can't release them until the name of Yahuwah, this book is released. But I've written some books about Paleo Hebrew grammar that could take a basic student all the way through a lot of the complexities, and who could take somebody who's a little bit more advanced into some interesting areas as well. Working on some things about Yahushua's name as well, which, matter of fact, I basically got that together. But again, the big deal is getting this one book about the name of Yahuwah, because that information about Yahushua's name is also covered. So, brothers and sisters, Yahuwah be with you, whatever you can do. And if you can do nothing else but simply remember to pray for me, and I will continue to pray for all of Yisrael. Yahuwah be with you and fill you with his transcendent shalom and his transcendent wisdom that goes beyond the world. In Yahushua's name, amen.